everybody, Jordan here, the PH is silent, and I create videos on the campaign settings of Dungeons & Dragons. If you're interested in the fantasy lore and history of these worlds, I'd love to have you subscribe. This video, I'll be discussing the Spelljammer campaign setting, and specifically we're going to talk about ship combat in space. This is actually the third in a video series on Spelljammer, so if you'd like to be taken to the beginning, there's a link to the playlist in the top right corner or in the description below. Now, Spelljammer is the name of the campaign setting, but it is also the name for traveling through fantasy space and the name for the vehicles used. So you can spelljam your Spelljammer in Spelljammer. In the last video, I went over the ship statistics, and my goal in this one is to conduct a ship combat training exercise. Let's put some Spelljammers into combat and see what they can do. I'll be referencing the Adventures in Space box set and a supplement for Spelljammer called the War Captain's Companion. You can find links to both of them in the description down below. Ships have different types of movement, long range, and tactical. Just like playable characters' movement is different if you're doing a longer hex crawl based travel versus a combat encounter. The Spelljammer is a vehicle, so it does have speed stats. A flying ship in the Spelljammer universe moves 500 yards per round for every point of its ship's rating. The ship's rating, or SR, is a combination of the ship's speed and power, and is dependent on the individual piloting the ship. It can vary, but roughly translates to about 17 miles per hour or 400 miles per day. This is the number written in the original AD&D rules, and it doesn't seem fast enough when traveling the cosmos. So the catch is, if your ship is in wild space and you're going in a straight line, then all Spelljammer ships can reach a velocity of 4 million miles per hour. This is the key. It doesn't matter the class or the ship rating of your Spelljammer, all ships traveling in a straight line can achieve this speed, traveling about 100 million miles in a single day. To put it into perspective, if a Spelljammer left our real-life Earth, it would take a single day to go from the Earth to the Sun. It would take 36 days to reach Pluto. You'll keep this speed until you encounter an object with a gravity well larger than 10 tons, in which your Spelljammer speed drops back to normal, the 500 yards per SR, and this creates a series of random encounters. The DM can have you drop out of hyperspace, for lack of a better word, for a planet or asteroid or another ship. To me, it has a JRPG feel of flying your airship and running into Doomgaze. You have to slow down, make a decision to investigate or keep flying, and sometimes this is a battle where you don't have a choice, but it could also be a planet where you can land and resupply. So let's say you found a planet. You can dip down briefly to get a fresh supply of air for your Spelljammer ship, or you can try and land on the planet and investigate. Ships capable of landing on water can land on water. A ship that has landing gear can set down on a hard surface, and any ship can crash into a planet's ocean, but taking off again can be difficult. To take off and land, the Spelljammer pilot and helm have to overcome or align with the gravity well of the object you're interacting with. This takes 1d8 rounds, a round being 6 seconds, and this is augmented by the size of the gravity well, or planet in this example. It will always be 1d8 rounds followed by extra turns to fully leave the planet's gravity well. Turns take 10 minutes in AD&D. A size class A planet, which is the smallest, will take 1 turn, but a size class J takes 96 turns or 16 hours to fully get out of the gravity well and allow for that fast straight line speed. Weather also affects your ability to land and take off. There is a fun 2d6 chart to roll on and see what is the weather of the planet. With strong winds or a full storm, the time is increased by a factor of 2 or 4. When using these numbers, it really only comes up if you're running from something or trying to catch something, probably. It's basically a tool for the DM to use when there is a time crunch, and that's why they're in the game. I'm sure most DMs would be fine hand-waving most of the time and just allowing you to land. But let's talk about ship-to-ship combat. Movement and combat are handled in a 2-dimensional format despite space being in 3 dimensions. The authors were being friendly, and it was designed this way for simplicity. Trying to apply 3D rules would slow down the game, and they felt that it would not add any benefit to the tactics. I mean, I get it, but it still kind of makes me sad. I grew up playing Homeworld, and every sci-fi fan understands that the enemy gate is down. Thumbs up if you understand that too. You'll roll initiative like normal D&D combat rules and attack when it's your turn, followed by the enemy and so forth. Combat is played out on a hex grid, and finally you can flip over your dungeon map. Each Spelljammer ship has a front and a rear point. SR is the direct amount your ship can move. A Spelljammer ship with an SR of 3 can move 1 space or change its facing direction 3 times per turn. That could be 3 hexes in a straight line or 2 hexes and a turn. A ship can always change its facing direction by 1 hex at the end of its movement for free. So when you move 3 hexes in a straight line, if you wish, at the end of your movement, you can rotate your ship 1 side. The maneuverability class of your ship determines when they can change direction during their movement. And this reflects inertia, I think, and allows for the maneuverability class upgrades to mean something in combat. F ships can't change direction until they move into a hex. D and E ships can't change orientation by more than 1 side per hex in a single turn. This causes you and your ship to bank with wide turns. B and C can change up to 2 hex sides in a single hex, and A ships can change direction at will, even 180 degrees backwards. An A-class ship doesn't even spend SR when changing direction. I'm gonna play out a small combat here between 2 ships. I am not an expert at 2nd edition AD&D rules, but we'll just walk through it and hopefully see how easy it would be to convert to other editions. I've got 2 ships, a galleon and a squid ship. AC is reversed in 2nd edition, so lower is better. The armor rating of the galleon is 7, and the armor of the squid ship is 5. To keep things simple, each ship has a level 6 wizard and a major helm. This puts each ship's rating at 3, thus they have a movement of 3. However, the galleon has a maneuverability class of E, which is bad, and the squid ship has a maneuverability class of D, which is better. We roll initiative, and the galleon goes first. It can move and attack. It has 1 light catapult and 2 medium ballista. In order to change direction, the galleon has to use 1 of its movement to go forward because of its E-class maneuverability. The galleon moves forward, then turns, and then moves again, using its full movement or SR of 3. The range of its light catapult is 5, which the enemy ship is in range. You can select to attack either the crew or the ship itself. Now the medium ballista have a range of 4, so our ship is just out of range. Thus, this turn, the galleon will attack with just the light catapult. THAC0 of our ship is 14, and THAC0 means to hit AC 0. So in order to hit AC 0, we need to roll a 14 through a 20. Now, armor class of 0 is really good because lower is better, but our squid ship has a worse AC of 5. We then subtract 5 from our THAC0 of 14 to get a hit range of 9 to 20. Our galleon rolled a 15 and he hits. We do 1d2 hull points of damage. We flip a coin and get a 2. Our squid ship is now 43 out of 45 hull points. Time for the next turn. The squid ship turns, moving 3 forward towards our galleon and attacks with the heavy catapult and 2 medium ballista. Heavy catapult is a range of 3, has a THAC0 of 18, and crits on an 18, 19, or 20. THAC0 18 minus galleon armor rating 7 is a hit range of 11 to 20. We roll a 12, just hitting, and we do 2d4 points of hull damage. Our medium ballista also fires, and we'll say they both hit, doing 1d3 hull points of damage. The total damage of our attack is 12 hull points. The galleon is at 28 out of 40 hull points. For later editions of D&D, we could easily say the ship has an AC of 16, and your weapon has a +6 to hit. So you roll a 12 plus 6 equals 18. Higher than its AC, and you hit for 2d4 damage. If I got my THAC0 wrong, I apologize, and if you're confused, don't worry. By the end of this series on Spelljammer, I hope to create some simple 5e rules that anyone can use. Conversely, you could use some of the ship rules in either Ghosts of Saltmarsh for D&D 5e or Pathfinder and change them up as needed. Knowing he's outmatched, the galleon will rush up to the squid ship. Ships can share the same hex, but when they are touching like that, short-range combat can occur, where characters can attack the crew from the deck of their ship. Also, grappling and boarding of the ship can happen, in which case you would just break out into regular combat just on the deck of the ship, with perhaps some environmental hazards from the combat. There is a critical hit chart for when long-range weapons roll a natural 20. Instead of double the dice, you roll on a separate table that explains what happens. This could be anything from the ship breaks apart or a fire starts. And interestingly enough, whenever your ship hits half of its hit points in combat, you must roll on the critical table regardless if the hit was a crit or not. If the crew gets attacked and dies or becomes unable to function, the ship slows down and the weapon rate of fire increases. You might not be able to fire every round. So attacking the ship or the crew, well, both have their advantages. The Spelljammer campaign setting comes with tables to generate space encounters, and plus rules for towing Spelljammers, repairing, crashing, or ramming into other ships and asteroids. In the next video, I'll talk about planets, creating a universe, and whatever else I find in this setting. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos and chat with me in the comments below. If you're interested, check out the Patreon, and thanks so much, patrons, for supporting the channel. I'll be back next week with more Spelljammer fun, and until then, take care and game on.